Something else that like really stood out to me this past weekend was like men don't care about fonts. They're just like,
No.
I just want this
No.
name on it. Like I didn't even have my font choice list out.
I feel like for men, as long as
That's
it's
so
not
true.
like the cursive script, if it's like
If it's for them.
if it's like a bold, if
Yeah.
it's for a man, as long as it's like a bold like block lettering,
Yeah.
that's fine. And welcome to the Riley Black Project, Crystal and John.
Hey.
Almost forgot to start my timer. That's what that was.
That's important.
Yeah,
But you're
it is.
recording, right?
Yeah, recording all the spots.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's
another
important.
thing that's important is please join our Facebook group,
Yes.
the Riley Black Project community.
Yep.
Apparently, not a lot of people know we have that.
Yeah, no, the giveaway that we recently
so,
ran,
Yes.
there's a bunch of people who should have known about the group who didn't. So
Right. There
join.
is a TRBP for our hangout group.
Yeah,
for our
the patrons.
But there's also a free one for general admission and
Riley
everybody.
Black Project
So that
community.
way, if you end your subscription, you get kicked out of one. And then
You
get
still
sent
have
over
the
to-
other
you
one,
still have
yeah.
the other one to get so that's that. And
Yes.
this episode is brought to you by
Katie with Monarch Pine. If you're looking for jewelry findings or blanks, check her out, monarchpine.etsy.com, and use code RileyBlack for 10% off. And patrons, you guys get a bigger discount. So check that out in your Facebook group or on Patreon.
And disclaimer, there might be an edit point because our 3-year-old is a menace and might get kicked out.
Yeah,
If there's one more incident today, he might be sent home.
I normally put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but I don't think today that is a good choice because we've already had 2 messages from them.
Yeah. So yeah, if he decides to bite somebody or hit somebody, he might get kicked out today.
Again,
Not
because he's
kicked out.
already
He might
done
get
both
sent
of
home.
those today.
Yeah, he might get sent home today.
great.
So that's that. Now with all of that house cleaning out of the way,
Who we got?
our guest today loves horseback riding.
Yeah.
Plays guitar, and spent I think it was 2 months in Honduras.
Yes,
building homes.
it was 2 months.
It was 2 months.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to shortchange if it was 2 years.
Right, yeah.
I want to shortchange her with 2 months.
Yeah.
But welcome to the show, Cheyenne with Paisley Co Designs.
Hi.
Hi.
How
How's
are
it
you?
going?
Good. How are y'all?
Oh, hanging in there.
Yep.
I'm getting over a sickness with parents, with 2 crazy boys,
Yeah.
just flying by the seat of our pants. I think most of us usually do. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. So I've met you, I've seen you throughout the groups and, your comments and that kind of stuff. And then you recently started a new Facebook group and we'll get into that. But what were you doing prior to getting lasers and Paisley Co?
Yeah, so before Paisley Co., I was the program director at AIM Clinics. So I worked with children that had autism for about 9 years, and I just kind of worked my way up the ladder. I was doing direct therapy and then worked my way up to becoming like the program director there. And so I ran a clinic, and yeah, that's what I did. So.
Yeah. And so how did you go from that to laser stuff? Are you doing laser stuff full time? Like, how's that?
Yeah. So my company got bought out. And when it got bought out, I watched my boss, who had invested like several years into the company, get replaced. And I knew at that moment, I was like, I need to figure something out, because sometimes when you work for somebody else, you are replaceable. And, with me and my daughter, I'm like, I need to figure out something that I can do on my own. So I, started looking into lasers and things of that nature. I never had a background in art, or like, I'd never have owned a Cricut machine.
Wow.
But I knew I wanted to make my daughter a sign. I was like, I had seen all the nursery signs, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I could do that. And I'm pretty sure other people want it. So I just quit my job and got a laser and went for it.
Wow. So at what point, I guess like before you quit, is there anything that you did like in preparation? Did you have like a certain amount set aside? Like, did you have a business plan, or did you just go all in for it?
I honestly just went all in.
that's impressive and terrifying. Like, so for me, I kind of had to be, I had almost a similar situation where I was working for a corporate oil and gas company in Colorado. And about 2 years prior to me quitting, so it was really common for oil and gas industry companies to get bought out. But the one we had been with had been around for like 75 years. So we kind of had this like false
did the buying out
sense of, security. They did buy several companies, but then we were kept on. And then layoffs happened, and it wasn't due to a buyout. And my entire department was let go besides me and one other person. And my boss was amazing. She was a hard worker. She was almost like a second mom to me. And I was like, wow, you really are like, they can let go of you like in a second. It's not like we didn't know these layoffs were coming, but they were so stressful. And it was like kind of the second time that I had gone through that. And, the new bosses and the new culture and the new vibe just like wasn't it for me. And then when he got an opportunity, in Florida, and it meant I would have to quit, which I did try to stay remote, but they wouldn't entertain it. And, it kind of took that to force me to be able to make that jump, because it was terrifying leaving, a job that was really secure, great benefits, great pay, 12 years, to then do something on my own. It was scary. The Riley Black Project is sponsored by Cuddle.xyz.
Cuddle lets you instantly generate personalized SVGs. Just type in the name, choose your options, and click download SVG. It's that simple.
I make tons of keychains and small items that require welding, node editing, connecting dots on the eyes, and the most tedious step, adding score lines. But with Cuddle, you just type the names and you're done.
Just go to the website, cuddle.xyz.
And use our coupon code RileyBlack for 10% off your first month or year.
Attention all laser owners and crafters. Are you tired of spending hours cutting, painting, and assembling laser products? Look no further than the Crazy Laser Dad's Laser Ready Blanks.
Their high-quality blanks are expertly sourced and tested and ready to use on your laser. Say goodbye to the hassle and frustration of time-consuming projects and hello to more time creating and selling.
Plus, with their wide selection of items, you'll surely find the perfect blank for your customers.
Visit crazylazerdad.com today and take your laser crafting to the next level with their Laser Ready Blanks. So then, what was your first laser? Was it a Glowforge?
It was, yeah. I started off with the Glowforge Pro, and
Nice.
I had it for about 6 months, and then got the Mira 9100 watt.
Okay,
Wow.
nice.
So
And so, did you actually end up making nursery signs? Because, fun fact, I thought I wanted to make nursery signs as well, and I made 2 and decided I didn't like them, and I didn't make any more of them.
yeah, so I did. I started out making all these things for kids because my daughter, I was like, oh, I want to make her a puzzle and a
Yeah.
keychain and like all these cute things, but cute doesn't always make you money. And so
Right.
that didn't last very long. I realized I'm horrible at painting, and
Same.
everything just took way too much time. So
Yeah.
I quickly kind of shifted my business model.
Yeah. Well, and a fun fact about the kids items that surprisingly doesn't really come up much on our podcast, because I don't think, now I have another idea of someone we should have on the podcast, is that kids items, depending on what they are, especially if they're marketed towards kids, like puzzles,
Yeah.
you have to be really careful.
Right.
One, it requires some testing, possible registering. You need to have like batch numbers, like all these things. Like your materials have to either be like kind of pre-tested. Like there's some
Right.
materials you don't need the testing for because they've already been tested, or some paints that are already kind of like pre-approved. But all of that is very important when you're making items for kids. And if you're a parent, or even if you're not a parent, I mean, it makes sense, because like we don't want
Right.
some rando just selling us stuff, toys that are for our kids, that they may have some unsafe features that we don't even think about. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
Right.
sharp edges and the char, and like there's just so many different things. Those puzzles that have those little like wooden beads on them for
Yeah,
like
they can break
easy,
off.
they can break off
Yeah.
and they can choke, and they have to, like, the pieces have to be like, you know, big enough that like they don't, you know, they can't go down their throat, and like all of those things. There's so much goes into it. If you want to make stuff for kids, it is possible and you can do it.
Mhm.
And it probably seems more daunting than it is
Right. There's a
once you
few
do
more
your
hurdles,
research.
to
Yeah.
set up.
But I would always, there was just a time in like the Facebook groups when those puzzles were so popular, and I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, guys, like I think I even had like a standard response, especially as an admin of a few of the groups where I
Right.
had to like respond like, okay, be careful, like,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
you can sure maybe make them for friends and family, but at the same time, even more so, you don't want your friends and family, like, how pissed is your sister-in-law gonna be if like your puzzle hurts,
Yeah.
you know,
Right, yeah.
someone? So it's just really important. But yeah, just side note, because again, that doesn't really come up much on our podcast. So you say you shifted a little bit. What did you shift into from that? And was it like around the same time as when you got your Mira?
Yeah, so the Mira really opened up more doors for me because I was able to do tumblers. I was able to do like bigger signage without having to deal with the Glowforge pass through, which was
Right.
always like inconsistent. So
Yeah.
yeah, it really started opening up doors. And then I realized, okay, well, with an expensive laser, like I have a lot more expenses that I
Right.
need to like, pay for and all of that. So the puzzles weren't going to cut it. Like I needed more bulk orders. I needed
Yeah.
items that I could just repeat the same thing over and over to kind of maximize profit like during
Right.
that time. So
Yeah.
I started
And
doing branding.
how did you shift that focus? Did you just start making those items and posting about them and people started ordering them that way? Or what did you do in order to make that shift?
Yeah, I did giveaways at first, like, hey, send me
Nice.
your logo. I'll do it for free so that I would have like images to use,
Mm-hmm.
then to like share with more people. And then the word of mouth just started happening. And even to this
Nice.
day, like I still learn things that I'm like, oh, that would be great to implement.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One thing that Heather did when she was trying to like launch a new item or something was she would call it a sample sale. So she would basically charge cost plus shipping, you know, not really any profit.
Right.
So then, you know, you weren't out the money of the item and the shipping for however many you decided to test or send out, but that this person also knew like, okay, they're going to have a little bit more patience because they know this is the first item that you're doing, you're testing it out, you know, it may take you a little bit longer. They're a little bit more patient because maybe they're spending like $10 or $15 on a tumbler that would normally cost them like $35 or $45. And then you're not, you know, doing all of this for free. So that's a good idea for someone who's wants to try something out.
Right.
For the first time, you know, call it kind of like a sample sale, and then they can get in on a, you know, like a discount early on.
A deal.
Yeah.
And you get pictures and you get to test your process in making it and kind of narrow that down.
Yeah. So I guess from there, when did the like X tools and that kind of stuff come about?
Yeah, so I saw the X tool, and the first thing I saw was it like engraving a macron, and that just blew my mind. And I was like obsessed with it and determined that I was going to get an X tool because I wanted to engrave macrons. Well, I got the X tool, obviously, and I started engraving macrons and had no idea that like my whole town would be obsessed with it too. So like within a week, I sold like over 200 macrons.
Wow.
Like the profit I made would have just covered the laser just to begin with. And
Nice.
but then like again, macrons, like you can engrave a macron for like 30 seconds or 10 to 30 seconds. Or you can engrave a knife and you're going to make a lot more money off of a knife. So
Right.
for the
True.
macarons and stuff like that, it's more so just for fun. But that's
Yeah.
how I got introduced to the X tool and kind of where my thought was with it.
Yeah. And so when was your first show that you actually took? And do you take the F1? Is it an F1 Ultra?
Yeah, so I actually am celebrating a full year in
Nice.
March. Like this month, I got my first X tool a year ago this month. So, yeah, I started out with the one, and then I did a show, and I just brought the X tool to the show, and quickly realized like I need more. Like people love this. Like I need another laser. So then I got another F1 and I started taking 2 of those to shows.
Wow.
And now I have an Ultra. So I have a show this weekend and I'll bring the F1 and the Ultra.
Okay. And do you have, is it one filter that you're able to hook up to both of them, or do you need 2 filters? One for
I have
each?
2 filters.
Okay.
Yeah, one for each.
And so when you're going to shows, how do you, like, has there ever been any issues with you bringing the laser? Do you let them know like ahead of time? How do you navigate that part?
Yeah, I mean, most people are super excited. So anytime I've brought the laser to a show, like prior, if I'm trying to like get the gig or something like that, like they're usually pumped. They're like, wow, we've never heard of this, or this is so cool. So it usually doesn't take a whole lot of like pushing to get them to like have me come.
Yeah. Were you doing shows frequently before you started bringing the laser?
Yeah, so I had done probably about 3 or 4 shows, so not too many, but I really wanted to do shows. I wanted to connect with people. Sometimes as a small business owner, it's very isolating. You're by yourself a lot of the time. So I was like, oh, I really want to connect with people. But they were never successful for me. I would spend like weeks and a ton of money like making signs and making all this stuff that nobody was buying.
Right.
That was like horrible. So whenever I got this tool, I was like, this is going to be incredible because it's going to ensure that I sell items and that they're exactly what the customer wants. So it really opened up a lot of doors.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
having an X tool at the shows are pretty cool because when we went to Podfest, we were there on a totally unrelated, like it had nothing to do with laser.
Podcast conference.
It was a podcast conference.
Yeah.
And then our host had at their table they had an F1. And they were there engraving, they were leatherette keychains, and it had a QR code on one side to your podcast, and on the other side your logo. Or the name of your podcast. And we just we were waiting in line just to
just to say hi because we got free tickets from them.
Tickets through them and everything like that. And we did that the year prior, but this time when we were waiting in line, we're like, man, there's a long line for bus.
Like,
they must
why
be
does
giving out
they
must be giving out something like
some
cool
free
or whatever.
swag or
And then as we're waiting in line, I'm like, is that an F1?
Yeah, we both saw it at the same time.
The last thing we would expect is a laser there.
Yeah.
So have you at shows come across any customers who are also like either have an F1 or looking at them like, oh, I've been looking at it. How do you have they asked you questions about it, or have you like made any friends at these shows because you have the F1 there?
Oh yeah. The F1 always like sparks conversation with people. People are always like, what is this? And then I have other people that like own lasers and they're like, oh my gosh, like tell me more about it. And so there's definitely been people that have probably gotten F1s just based off of seeing it in person, like at a show.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what items do you typically do at these shows?
Yeah, so my best sellers are going to be like knives, wallets, and jewelry.
Okay.
Hats are also a big seller in journals. So I also gear it towards whatever the event is. So this past weekend I had a man's night, so I brought all the knives, all the wallets, like anything gun related, America related. Like it was
now you're talking
really geared towards men. Whereas this upcoming weekend, I have a women's event that I'm gonna bring my laser to. So I'm gonna bring a lot of jewelry and jewelry cases and things that are really like geared more towards women. But I always at every show still have a section that's geared towards the other gender. Right. So like at the man's night, I had a section that had a couple necklaces that say, "Men, don't forget your wives."
Smart.
And at the women's one, I'll still have something because we still have Father's Day, Mother's Day.
Right.
People are always celebrating anniversaries, and
for sure.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, I always, for people looking for like a gap to sell to at the craft shows is something for men. And when you're marketing towards men, sometimes you're marketing towards that husband that was dragged along to the craft show. But then a lot of times you're marketing towards that wife who hasn't seen anything for their husband since they've been at the craft show and want to get something for their husband, while they're there. Right. So you're kind of, you're marketing to both of those people. So yeah, that's really smart. And men, being that if it's a, kind of a man's night and it's, geared towards them, they like easy gifts. Yes. So if they can come to your booth and they can easily get something, you kind of tell them like what, women tend to like or what, their wife might like.
Yeah. And if you're shopping, I would say for men, more than easy is really like gifts for men is like functional.
Oh, right.
I feel like we like a bottle opener, like a knife or like something that has a use, to it is like kind of, but yes, you're right. Making it easy for us to pick something up for our wives is
while you're already out. Yeah.
The Riley Black Project is sponsored by Monarch Pine.
Monarch Pine is your trusted source for premium laser blanks and jewelry findings. From large loop earring hooks made specifically for acrylic and wood earrings to laser-tested stainless steel necklace and bracelet blanks, they have everything you need to bring your creative ideas to life.
As a maker, you know the value of quality supplies. And that's exactly what Monarch Pine delivers. Whether you're crafting as a hobby or running a full-time business, their products make it easy to design confidently and create stunning pieces.
Head to monarchpine.etsy.com and use the coupon code RileyBlack to get 10% off your order. Riley Black patrons get an even bigger discount, so don't miss out.
And while you're at it, join the Monarch Pine Craft Supply Insiders Facebook group. It's a vibrant community where makers share tips, inspiration, and their incredible creations.
Monarch Pine, where your creativity takes center stage. Visit monarchpine.etsy.com and use code RileyBlack today.
Not tomorrow. Today. Hey there, podcast listeners. How great would it feel if this was the year you finally got to escape your 9-to-5 to embrace your lifestyle of creativity and entrepreneurship?
Every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, Eon Laser USA invites you to join the Freedom to Create webinar, where you'll learn how to make this a reality.
Join leading laser industry professional and brand ambassador Emily, aka That Mom with a Laser, and Eon Laser USA's sales manager Alicia as they dive into all things Eon.
Learn about the advantages of owning an Eon laser and get the scoop on Eon's rewards and partner benefits. Plus, get a glimpse at how everyday people who started out with zero experience paid off their lasers, scaled their businesses, and transformed their lifestyles.
So if you're ready for a lifestyle change, head over to eonlaser.us/whyus and sign up for the Freedom to Create webinar today.
Thanks for listening. Laser on.
And something else that like really stood out to me this past weekend was like men don't care about fonts. They're just like, I just want this name on it. Like I didn't even have my font choice list out or anything. And like nobody asked to see anything. And I know like at this show I have coming up, like I'm going to have all the fonts out. Like,
all the options.
Designs. Yeah.
I feel like for men, as long as it's not like the cursive script. If it's
for them,
if it's like a bold, if it's for a man, as long as it's like a bold like block lettering, that's fine.
Yeah,
nothing fancy.
You guys are easy, usually
when it comes to fonts,
right? Yeah. So, and I guess like in comparing that to the few other shows that you did, say you bring your F1, especially if you already have it. You bring your F1 and the filter and all of your items, and say maybe your items don't necessarily, for some reason, it's not the draw that it seems like it usually is, right? Mm-hmm. The only thing you're out is your booth fee and your time. The thing that I hated most about doing these shows was I had this terrible anxiety of trying to guess what people wanted. Because unless you've done the same show several times, sorry, my phone's going off. Let me just make sure it's not daycare. Okay, it is not. We can continue. Unless you've been to these shows several times, you don't know what they're gonna want. And I've even heard that like, oh, on Saturday this sold out, and on Sunday this sold out. You know, it's like it's really hard to predict what is going to sell for that crowd, and making all of these items, you know, like you said, weeks and weeks, if not months in advance, and then you bring it all, and if it doesn't sell, now you have all this crap or quality stuff that you've made, and you have to figure out how to offload it, find another show to sell it at, hope you sell it online. With this stuff, you really just need to bring the blanks, and then you do need to, you know, have enough of the blanks. That's, you know, probably the one difficulty. You know, you don't want to bring like, you know, those what are they, the envelope ones, if those sell really well, and if you only bring like 10 of them, you know, then you might miss out on some profit if you don't have enough of them. But that's really like, you know, the main drawback, right?
Yeah. And then also, like, let's say you bring your F1 laser to your show and it's not going the way you had hoped. You still have all these other booths that they all run a small business. So
very true.
I started making flyers that say, like, do you own a small business? I offer custom branding merch, and, you know, have pictures of the items and give them to each of the booths that are there.
That's really smart. Yeah. And so you said you also do a lot of networking. You did one actually today before this, right? So tell us about that. Like, how did you find them? Like,
so I just started this like this past month. Like, I've only been to maybe like 4 or 5 of them, and
that's a lot though.
So incredible. Well, I'm like, when I go to one, they're like, oh, you should come to this one, or you should come to this one. So it's been so incredible. I've learned so much. There's definitely some tips that I would love to share about that. But it's been good.
I would definitely love to hear about the tips, because that's one thing that in the marketing course I took for video marketing was, you know, joining your local networking groups. Like there's the, what is it, BNI, which is kind, at least here, and I think all over, but it's kind of pricey for what it is.
It is,
and then there's the Chamber of Commerce, but I found here locally that there are a few where you kind of pay like $10 to $20 per event.
Yeah, you kind of pay for like your food, or
your food,
an entry
or your
fee,
drinks, or just something like. It just depends. I guess it depends on how it's structured, but so I'd be interested to hear like what sort of tips you have.
Yeah, like how did you find them? That kind of stuff.
How did you find them? And then your kind of like your pitch to people you meet.
Okay, so I had just like came across a women in networking event on a Facebook page, like in a mom's group. So you'll want to like look up networking events like in your area. Anyway, that got me plugged into one of them, which did cost. It was like $30 to go. And that was the first one I had went to. But in that meeting, I learned about all these other ones that were free that you can go to. But that one was $30. I just brought my business cards myself. I got there like maybe 5 minutes early, and it was packed. There was already like a ton of people there. But I ended up, the person that sat right next to me is going to be the speaker for this month. And she was like, oh my gosh, I want to get journals. So she ended up ordering 100 journals.
That's
literally
awesome.
like right then. And so it really like opens up doors. But the tips that I do want to share, which I literally have just learned these. One is to like wear your brand. I make these name tags like for so many businesses, but I never thought about just making one for myself.
Oh, right.
So one would be like to wear your brand. And then second advice is to show up like 20 to 30 minutes early, because we get there so early.
We struggle with that so much.
Well, and some of these networking meetings, you give them your business card. So when it's the time to like go up, they pull your card. So you don't want to get there right on time and then have to walk in front of everybody and like put your card in the box. And,
right.
it's just awkward. But that leads me to my next tip is business cards. My business card did not have my name on it. It just had Paisley Co design, and then on the back it had like QR codes. And so just a tip for anyone, you need to have your name on your business card.
Yeah.
When you go to these things.
For sure.
Yeah. And then other than that, just for the 30 seconds, like you usually have 30 seconds or 60 seconds, just practicing it, recording yourself, like doing it over and over and see, oh, how do you look when you say this? And you know, different things like that. But
yeah, that's true. It's kind of like I remember you couldn't record yourself because I didn't have phones until high school, but you had to like kind of like do it in front of a mirror for like speech class and that kind of stuff, or in front of like your friends or family or whatever. Yeah, but practicing it, and he uses Chat GPT to help.
I have been, because I've gone since the beginning of last year. So it's been a full year of networking for us. So I would go and I would just like, you know, off the top of my head or whatever. So I kind of wanted something a little more structured, a little more polished. Yeah. You know, kind of like a script. So I asked ChatGPT to come up with like an elevator pitch for my business. And then I do it routinely to like kind of like change up what I say, because a lot of times when you go to
because if you do the same thing over and over,
you also have like the same kind of people there, the same people, and then they already know who you are, right? So there's one that I go to that was weekly and now is monthly, and now what I've been doing is just coming up with different things. So like I have a video strategy guide. So I'll push that one time, and then I'm doing free promos for local small businesses. So I'll push that like a way to give back to the community. So that way it's not just me selling myself again. Yeah. It's especially when you know what I do.
If you give the same exact spiel every time to like, if it's one, again, that's recurring, like it kind of is like, oh yeah, I already know what he does, blah, blah, blah. Right. But if you find a way to shift it, like, okay, you know, with his videography, you know, you can like, oh, you know, for realtors we do meet the agents, we do drone, we do this and that, right? Well, then the next time maybe don't talk about realtors at all, talk about small businesses, or
how
you know,
video impacts how video impacts small business. Saying that to say that you can like, after a while you can focus in on one aspect, like for you, you know, your keychain thingies or your actual keychains for merch or Tumblr. Like you can focus on one thing and then just like kind of
keeps
glance,
it fresh.
Right. Yeah. Like focus on one and then glance over, oh, I could also make other merch stuff like that. But yeah.
So the one was just $30, but you found other ones that were free as well. Were those just like put on by like people just doing like meetups, or what were the other ones?
They're actually every week. So every Friday morning, every Wednesday morning. That was one I went to just this morning. And last Friday morning, I had 2 business owners come up to me and they're like, hey, you know, we just want to be real with you. And they talked about my business card. And they're the ones that were kind of like, you know,
gave you the feedback,
put your name on it, because this next meeting you're going to go to, like, that's what they use. But they also pointed something out that like blew my mind. And I have always had a Gmail account, Paisley Co design at gmail.com. And they were like, you know, if you're wanting to target businesses, you've really got to elevate that. And most businesses, when you send from a Gmail account, it goes straight to their spam. Like you need to have an email that's connected to your website. So then that evening I got it. So now it's like info@paisleycodesign.com. So,
Yeah.
And
I recently did that too. I have John, because mine is RileyBlackMedia@gmail, and then I changed that to John at RileyBlackDesigns.com.
RileyBlackMedia.com.
Yeah.
Because my main one was RileyBlackDesigns@Outlook.com, and that's still the one I use for most stuff. But I do have the one from my website, Crystal at RileyBlackDesigns.com, which it definitely does look more professional. I mean, I've seen like quote bigger companies still have the like Gmail or Outlook, and I don't think it turns everybody off, but at the same time, like it's not like So it possibly could turn someone off from ordering from you if they think, you're maybe not as professional or you're a little bit smaller, but having a professional email isn't going to turn really anybody off.
Right.
So it is, and it's not a difficult thing to add necessarily.
Right.
Like how much was it for you to add that? Do you know?
I think it's like $7.99 or something like that.
Yeah,
like
and I think mine was like $20 a year,
I forget
or
what
I don't know.
It
wasn't very expensive for what you get.
Right. Yeah, and I also had it because I wanted to start doing more like email marketing. So I figured I needed that at RileyBlackMedia.com because it's more marketing type.
Yeah.
But I mean, for like makers and stuff, sometimes you can, like at networking meetings, all they have is your card. But for makers, if they find you on like Instagram or they find your website, they fall in love with what you make, and then it's more like, a Gmail account.
Yeah.
It's more of a instead of a Gmail.
But
account.
if it's first impression,
right.
Yeah,
just little tweaks like that and stuff like you don't know until you know, and kind of surrounding yourself with other small business owners kind of helps you like learn those kinds of things.
Well, and how awesome of those other business owners to tell you that and give you that feedback, because like little tweaks like that can make a difference. And I honestly didn't even think about the fact that having like the Gmail or Outlook could potentially send your stuff to spam, before it even gets to them, because he's right now like going through
the cold
calls, kind of like cold outreach. And something you run into when you do those is through email or Facebook or Instagram and stuff, depending on where you contact them, it can immediately be sent to spam, and then you have to hope that that's something that they check regularly, and that when they honestly, that they're interested. So I try to. So I check the what do you call it? So the Facebook ones, it comes to your main folder, usually, at least for me now. It just says like message request.
Yeah,
it looks different.
And
then Instagram, sometimes those hide a little bit better. But I try to check my junk email, junk in the trunk. I try to check it regularly, if not daily, because I've had so many of my customers' emails, they'll reply to their like shipping notification or something and ask, because that's the last email they got from me, and maybe they haven't received their package or they have a question about their order. They'll reply to my own email that was sent from my website, and it'll go to junk email. And I can't tell you how many times I've missed it by several days or even, a week or longer. And then now I feel like a jerk because, they sent me a message and I haven't responded to their question or inquiry. And that should be the way that they should be able to get a hold of me, So yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first few, I thought I was gonna go high tech and got like one of those .rf things for your phone where you tap on it. I got the bracelet. And it sent you to almost like a link tree, but from like .com.
Yeah.
Where it had all my social medias and everything like that. And then my card really didn't. I forget. I remember that someone told me that like my phone number is not on there because I had all my my social media handles and my email on there. But I was like, who really like phone number kind of seems like, I don't know if I want my phone number on the card. So I did, and they're like, oh yeah, these young guys don't put their phone numbers. Like someone just made that like, oh, we don't use phone numbers anymore.
That's generational.
And it is, but that is something that's like, it is to have it there if someone wants to call you or text you instead of.
And especially our location.
Yes.
We're in a smaller town, and the demographic is typically a little bit older, and they still do want to call rather than email. And so having all of those options so that if someone does want to call you, you do have it there, and you can do Google Voice or whatever if you don't want your actual
different number. Or in my case, I have a South Florida number, so they see the area code isn't from here, so it could be a little like turn off-ish, especially if they want to like really do local, it's like, oh, this is a 954 instead of a 772.
Right.
So yeah, that's another kind of piece. And a Google Voice can give you the area code to your area, and it'll go to, I think it still goes to your phone.
Yeah, it still goes to your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does it. It's kind of like a forwarding service, basically, is what. Yeah.
So how many? Well, you just started, but what's kind of like your goal? Like, how many networking meetings do you want to go to, like monthly or weekly?
I would say 3 each week, probably.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, it's hard. A lot of ours, and it might be the generation, which I guess, but I kind of took the initiative one night to create a group. But there's a lot of like older generation, or maybe people who aren't necessarily parenting young kids anymore, or that kind of stuff. But a lot of ours are at like 7:30 in the morning, and it's like, we've barely just woken up. We still got to get the kids to school, like.
Well, and it's also hard because like today there's one tonight at 6:00. But that's dinner time.
That's dinner time, and we just picking up the kids.
We have to, like, either I'm gonna be gone that day, or you're gonna be gone. Like, we'd have to, like, because we both can't attend because of the boys. So it is kind of, sometimes it's harder to make those events, and then other times, there's one group that does theirs at like almost noon, like 11:45. So those are easier for us to make, and we usually make that one. But yeah, some of these 7 in the mornings, and then they're like, for us, again, in our area, they're like 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
So it's like, if it's starting at 7:30, that means we have to leave at 7. But, JR's gate doesn't open
until like 8:20.
8:20.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's for us, it's a little difficult.
But I want to do one with, like, so I created one night sitting on the couch, and yes, I had a gummy, but I was like, oh, I want to start like a group for the younger entrepreneurs that are like in our city and in our area. And like, I wanted to, do like a get together. And one of the guys, I was like, oh, where should we go? I wanted to go somewhere with like maybe, drinks or something like that. And he had suggested, it's kind of like Top Golf, but it's like our version, and it was like big shots. But it was like, kind of like something to keep you busy. So it's not all just having to make small talk, but, it's something fun.
Right.
And then, we just have to like, set up, make sure my mother-in-law can watch the boys or whatever. Right. But if there isn't something, a networking that fits your schedule, like, make one, see, even if it's super informal, because I've seen people in the local Facebook groups say, hey, I'm going to the coffee shop. Any other like local, business owners want to join me for coffee? I'll be there from like 12 to 2 or, something like that. Just putting yourself out there for us like introverts and social anxiety people is terrifying. But like, it really can be beneficial because you make those, connections. And I'm sure some of the connections you've made, they've already been beneficial, and you've only been doing it for like a month, right?
Yeah, I would say every single meeting I at least sell to one person.
That's
like
awesome.
I get at least one customer. So that's why I'm kind of like, I really want to do it like 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Like, it's working.
Yeah, for sure. I just had an idea and it's gone.
An idea or a question?
A question.
Okay.
And I don't.
Was it about networking?
I think so. Who knows? It's gone for now. So something I forgot to mention when we were talking about the X Tool and the crafting groups, you created a Facebook group to kind of talk more about that, right? What was that called?
Yeah, that's X Tool on the Go.
Okay. And how does that group work? Like, what kind of things do you do in there?
Yeah, so in that group, I'm just going to like share tips and tricks that have worked for me. It has been incredible for my business. And if I can help other people with their journey as well, then that's awesome. And so it's just like a community of people. You can ask questions, and hopefully we can like help you out and just celebrate you throughout the whole thing too.
Yeah. So In the email, you had mentioned there was one event, right, that you had made, what, like $1,900 at? Is that right? Can you tell us more about that one?
Yeah, so that was actually last weekend.
Okay,
So
the
it was
man's,
the man's night. It was such like a hot mess of a show because I got there 2 hours early to set up because I'm like, I want this to be perfect. And I was hoping
Right.
to like get pictures and stuff like that and like do some video recording of like different things.
Yeah.
But like 20 minutes before the show is supposed to start, there's no other vendors there outside. So I'm the only one out there and I'm like, what? And so somebody came from inside and was like, hey, let's move you inside. Inside like the building. And as soon as they moved us inside, it was just like sale. Like it was like crazy. And so the show was only from 5 to 7. And yeah, we sold $1,900 worth of product just in those 2 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was insane. And it was also to the point where we were like, sorry, like we can take your order, but like I won't have enough time to make all this stuff.
Right.
So we ended up like shipping out people's orders. And so like we still took orders and we said, hey, we'll provide you free shipping, but you won't get it today, but we'll ship it out Monday. And so we did that too.
Nice. So yeah, when do you know when to kind of cut off orders? Like, do you kind of assign like an amount of time to each order and then after so many, those have to be shipped, or how do you kind of manage when things are going crazy like that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's not really a system I have in place. I just look at it and I'm like, okay, I can handle more. Like, it's just communicating with my team, like, hey, you need to tell them 10 minutes because they're really the ones that are talking to everybody. And I'm just like focused on the laser.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just got to the point where I was like, okay, there's like 30 or 40 more items. Like, we need to start telling people we'll ship it. So just being transparent, and people don't care. Like a lot of them were like, that's fine. Just ship it to me, or, hey, I'll pick it up from your house like this week. So
yeah,
most of the time they don't care.
Do you limit it to like just names or designs, or how do you limit any of that stuff that you personalize?
Not really. I mean, most everybody just wants something simple. I would say like maybe 20% of people are like, hey, can you custom this, or can I send you my logo? And I have a girl that works with me who she'll take care of all that. So she'll get on her laptop, she'll figure out how to make it into like an SVG and all that. And then she'll email it to me. I'll just download it and do it. So it hasn't been a problem, but if you don't have help, then I would definitely just leave it with no customization. Like if you
specific designs.
Custom, you're gonna have to get it later.
Or maybe like just take the order and then just ship. Like you're not taking it home.
Right. Yeah.
For the customization.
So do you usually bring at least one person? Do you bring more than that? How do you kind of do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I usually have at least one other person. I'm so grateful to goodness that I had 2 people there because I almost told one of them to go home when we were outside.
Oh, no. Right.
And as soon as they moved us in, I'm like, I'm so glad that like she was here. Honestly, we would have been fine with having another person. So safe bet is always 1 to 2 extra people.
Yeah, that's true, because even if you're kind of like standing around, at least there's the potty breaks and those kind of things if you need them.
Well, and also too, just bringing in other people that are like kind of like looking around, because from the shows we've done,
right?
That's always
when it's only us two, we feel very like stuck, and we can't like go look around. We can't like network really with the other people because we both need to be there, because one's usually engaging, the other one's like ringing someone up, like having 2 or 3 people if possible is really ideal. But 2 is, I feel like, kind of just the minimum requirement sometimes.
And I know it's an expense, but it's totally worth it, because if I would have had an extra person there, I think we would have even sold more, because the hat where we had all the hats, like we had people look up, but I had 2 other girls like on the other side of the booth where it was like nobody could answer that guy's question or know, like, so it is worth it. If you just look at it like, okay, as long as I sell 1 or 2 items, like that's going to pay for my help.
Right.
each hour.
And how much was the booth fee at that event?
It was free.
Oh, wow.
Even better.
Wait, so were you the only vendor selling something, or were you the only vendor like that was set up outside?
So there were other vendors, but they were, let's see, one was like auctioning off items, like things that were signed by like professional people. There was somebody selling guns. But I guess there were supposed to be other vendors selling like t-shirts and mugs and stuff like that didn't show up. So yeah, I mean, they did limit it to only just a few of us. So I was excited to get that opportunity. But honestly, what brought that opportunity was I just went up to the organizer and said, hey, like, I can bring my laser and engrave on the spot. So a lot of times it's just like asking for the opportunity. Just like the event I have this weekend, I went up to the organizer and I was like, hey, like I can, engrave jewelry. And they're like, that's a great idea. We'd love to have you. So just getting the nerve to ask for it.
Well, and I wonder if they didn't charge those other vendors a booth fee, it's hard to, I mean, as Will and many others have said, like, if you don't pay for it, you don't, like, getting a free course won't, a lot of times people won't actually like use it if it's free, but if they paid for it, they will. And so if they didn't charge the other vendors a fee, it's easy to not show up when you're not out anything. You know what I mean? So I wonder if that could be, that potentially could have even affected who showed up, but it probably worked in your favor because there was less to choose from. And so, and it brings more attention on you because there's not so many other shiny things to look at, What are some of the, we're at 48. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll ask you that on the other part. I want to know more about some of the other shows that you've done. But remind people what your group is and then where they can find you on social media and stuff if they want to follow you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's X Tool on the Go. So you can look that up, and that's where we're going to share all the tips and tricks, and then my actual business page where I sell my laser engraved items is called Paisley Co Design.
Okay. Perfect. And Instagram and Facebook and all that.
Yes, and I just posted my first TikTok video last night. So
nice. Good job.
We'll see about that.
Yeah.
I have yet to post my first TikTok, so I'm not on TikTok. Well, that does it for our general admission. Don't go anywhere because Patreon is next. But for you guys who are general admission, don't forget to join the Riley Black community on Facebook. And
join Patreon if you want the rest of these interviews.
Join Patreon if you want. There's a free trial option. But for you guys, the life updates coming up next. And now we're on Patreon. So
who
do you hate?
We always say that when we
thing about who do you hate?
Who do you want to talk shit about?
I have a list if you want me to pull it out.
Right?
No. We don't. I mean, unless you.
I do, but let's we're technically still recording, so. So what other events have you done that you've actually brought your laser to? Were they more themed events? Were they just like local shows, or how did you choose them, I guess?
Yeah, honestly, I have done so many. I don't even know how many I could count now, but
that's awesome.
If I am able to kind of have a target audience, I mean, out here, I'm from a small town. So everybody out here loves anything to do with America, God, or guns or anything like that. So as long as I have something within that range, like it usually always sells. So I've never done anything like out of this area. So I wouldn't know, but.
Yeah. I mean, that's impressive though, that this is basically all your small town shows, right? Yeah. And have you had so you had the show this last weekend. Was that your most successful, the one with the 1,900 in sales?
Well, it is in the 2 hours. So, but I did last fall do a show, and in one day I made $2,300, which is a little bit more, but it was like an all day show. So it wasn't as amazing as this.
Right. So what was your worst show if you had one? Do you know?
Like how much I made off of it?
Yeah. Or like maybe, I don't know, because, the worst could be how much you made or
Oh,
weather,
okay.
or maybe you didn't have enough. So like my worst show that I've talked about a few times on the podcast is there was one where I literally broke even with the booth fee, but then by the time I got Taco Bell on the way home, I was $20 in the hole. So, but at these same shows, I also made like, networking, connections, and I ended up being in a consignment shop for one of them, down the road. So although it was my worst show, I still made some connections. So I'm always just curious. And we always talk about like our big wins and our best show, but then like what was maybe the show that you're like, that was kind of mediocre, didn't go as well as you had hoped?
Yeah, so I can think of one show, and I was so excited about it because I had tried over and over and over to get into it. Like I pushed, I went in person, and then last minute they're like, "Okay, we're going to give you a spot." And I went, and I was so excited because they were going to give me like this whole room, and it was right around Christmas time. And at that time, I brought like way too much stuff to the event, like too many options. Like it was almost like over, like, too many options where it's hard to like pick an
overwhelming.
item.
Yeah.
And there were so many people there, and I thought having that room was going to be really cool, but it actually kind of hid me.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the tables, like more people could walk through. And since I was in a tight room, when one person walked in, it was like, you couldn't get more than like 2 or 3 people in there at a time. Whereas if I would have just gone with a table outside, like I would have had more people come. So
location is huge. Yeah.
Yes, it really is. And I mean, just this past weekend, that was a huge factor from them moving me from outside to inside because we didn't have enough time to set everything up and people were buying stuff. So like the location of it is really important. But yeah, that show I only made like a few $100, and so it was like not worth the amount of time that I spent for it.
Right. Yeah. So. And I guess on some shows, at least the ones that I went to, you could sometimes pay more for like prime locations. But sometimes there was just no option, and it was just literally the luck of the draw.
Right.
Which is so hard for my controlling, like self, because it's just like, you can be, if you're placed at like, I don't know, like almost down a hallway or something like that. If that's not part of like just the natural flow of traffic, you can be missed so easily. And it's hard because, you paid just as much typically as the person who miraculously got placed in that loop, and like little things like that can just make a huge difference depending on whether you're profitable or not, or if you get that traffic. Like you said, the room, if there's not a good flow for people will see, oh, there's not a lot of room in there, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah. And I think it's vital for like every show for you to have those flyers that you can take to each business. So like, even if the walking around customers didn't order from you, you can still get orders from the businesses there.
Very true.
So, and that's what I do every time.
Yeah, because that's where, I mean, with laser engraving, we have the luxury of like, I guess, I don't know, the only thing I can think of is like a soap maker. A soap maker can't really necessarily walk up to you and be like, hey, let me help you with your business. And what are they going to do? Give you like soap with like your logo on it maybe? But like, it's possible, but it's just a little bit harder maybe for them to market themselves, but you can, so yeah, you're selling these items to the people who are at the show, but there's a million things that you can do for these small businesses that they can't do for themselves. So it's a huge, like you're right. It's the two opportunities that you have when you go to these shows, don't only 100% focus on the customers who are arriving. You want to pay attention to those who are also working the events as well, because they're typically small businesses that could use,
and maybe even the event coordinator themselves, because they might want to put like something in like
their
a swag bag or something like that,
Yeah.
the logo of the event or something, so they can potentially become a customer as well.
Yeah. Oh, and the networking, one thing that we haven't had taken advantage of yet that we're slacking on, a lot of them do giveaways at the events. Have you brought stuff to give away at the events?
Yeah, only one of them, but now I'm gonna like do it more because a lot of the times you get a picture with the person that won your item, and then they post that on their Facebook page. So you're getting like a lot more attention.
Right. That's true. I didn't even think about picture.
One thing that because there's another local laser guy here. One thing
what he does,
and he doesn't go to all of them, but one thing I've seen that he does is he gives away a tumbler.
And but it's a blank one.
It's a blank one, and then you get to design like, you
get to choose what you want on it, and then you bring it to his shop. Yeah, he has like an actual shop location. Because I don't really want them showing up at my house saying engrave this on there for me. Because we don't have a shop. But yes, it's another way to bring them in, and then he could potentially like upsell them or give them other stuff.
Especially because you're giving away to another business owner. You're not just giving. So it's like, oh, you know what? I will, in my storefront or whatever, that would look cool.
Let's or how much for 20 more?
Or even that.
Yeah. One thing, this isn't related to that at all, but what I used to do when we would have people come to the house for different services, I would typically just grab their logo from Facebook or however I found them, and I'd make them like one keychain as a thank you. And like we did that for our guy who installed the blinds, and he then ordered like 20 or 50 more, on the spot after I showed him the one that I gave him. And he was, one, impressed that I did that just while he was there, installing the blinds. And then two, he was like, oh, I would love, some more of those. So like there's an opportunity, almost all the time. You just got to figure out how to spin it.
where to make it. I mean, another thing too, like again with the tumblers or with anything really is going into kind of like cold outreach, going into local shops and just either like you downloaded their logo and then you put it on a tumbler or something, or just one of like your companies or something like that, and just like give it to them as a free gift.
Right. Yeah. I have seen on one of the posts. There was one, I don't remember where it was, but someone was suggesting that like, because, and I kind of am 50-50 because, you can't please everybody, right? But one is that people love seeing their logo on things, so when you make something with their logo, they love it. However, there's the other side where not everybody wants you to have basically taken their logo, traced it, and put it on an item too. So that's another scenario too. And then one side, just to side with the ones who maybe you shouldn't like steal everyone's logo and put it on something. If you put something more generic on it, or maybe small town, like we could put something on it with like our small town, and then they see how it is, but then it's also more generic, so that maybe if they're not interested, then you're not taking back a random cup with someone's logo on it, or it can go to more people. It's a little bit more versatile than evergreen. Just specific to that person.
Right.
Yeah. So do you have any, like, what are your goals for the year for like Paisley Co and, for the shows? Are you going to do more of the X-Tool shows, more of the B2B? Like, what's your focus for this year?
Yeah, more B2B is definitely my focus. The networking events are really helping that side of my business grow just already. But also the show. So I plan on doing at least 2 to 3 shows each month.
Wow.
as a single mom, though, it is kind of hard with my daughter.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you manage all that?
Yeah, but she's in pre-K, so during the day I work. When she sleeps, I work. Like, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Do you have help from friends and family and stuff?
My parents, they help out quite a bit.
Yeah,
so.
That's good.
Yeah.
And what kind of shows do you do? Are these like craft shows? Like, what are the 2 or 3 shows that you want to do per month?
Yeah, some of them are at businesses. I'll have a wedding coming up in July that I'm going to be doing.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, just calling businesses. There are like craft shows that I'll be at as well in August and September, October. But a lot of it is just, events happening in the area and then reaching out to like hair salons. A hair salon was actually my first show that I ever did.
Really?
Yeah.
And so how did that work? Tell us about the hair salon one.
I saw a post on Facebook that she was having an event at her salon, and I just was like, can I come and bring my laser? And she was like, sure. So.
Yeah. Huh. And so at this hair salon one, did they have other vendors at the event or no?
They did.
Okay. Yeah. And were they doing, were they like, I guess, hair vendors? Oh, hold on. We have a surprise guest.
Yay!
What is up, everybody?
Hey, friend. You interrupted my question. I have to finish this question because I'll forget it.
I'll just listen.
So tell me about the hair salon one. Were the other vendors like hair like type vendors, or were they just random vendors who wanted to sell to this crowd? Or
Yeah, one was a hat bar, one was doing permanent jewelry, and then it was me.
Oh, nice. And so did you do jewelry there as well?
I did.
Nice. Okay. Hi, Will.
So,
what are you doing?
Guys up to?
You almost
I'm just
missed it.
crashing a podcast.
You almost
I heard
missed it.
Cheyenne was going to be on, and I had to come say hello.
Right.
She was nervous about the podcast. I told her she'd be great.
She was, but she did good.
Yeah.
She's still doing good.
So yeah. So I just wanted to come and say hello. Congratulations on getting on the podcast. You deserve it. So, and
you do.
What another reason to say hello to you guys. So
right, you missed us, right? It's been what, a week or two?
Well, no, I think I've been on like 3 times in the last 2 months.
I know, and we almost had you on again, and you're like, no, we need to take a break because I'm gonna be on. Yeah,
because you were right across the wall right here.
Yep.
In the freezer. I was staying in the warm area.
Oh my God. It was so cold.
Yeah. That ice
I never want to be that cold again.
You guys are you're from Colorado. It's supposed to be cold.
I'm not not anymore. Like apparently your blood gets thinner or something, I've been told, but I can't handle Colorado cold anymore. So no. Okay. So while you're here, is there any accomplishments or anything that you can think about of Cheyenne that she may not have wanted to share or tell herself? Because I mean, it's hard talking about yourself. Don't do any dirt.
No,
I mean, you could. This is the paid portion.
Okay. I'm just thinking back, right? It's been about 2 years. Maybe 3 years since we met. It was in Dallas at the Fort Worth conference. We met before that, but the conference is when we really got the chance to talk.
Met in person,
and I think that's when we sat down for probably an hour and we talked about her business. And she was telling me where she was and where she wanted to go. And what impressed me the most was we sat down for like maybe an hour. We talked about locking up a domain, website, all these little things. And then the next day at the conference, she came back and was like, done.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, okay, 99% of the people I talked to, including, I don't know if I'm pointing to you or John, you, hey, we and I'm included in the 99% where I would say, hey, we should be doing this. We could be doing this to be better. Yeah. And it never gets done or it's half-assed. especially on my end.
Right.
And when Cheyenne came back less than 12 hours later saying, hey, I locked up a domain, I got this going, I have this going. It was impressive.
For
and
sure.
From there, we just became really close.
Yeah.
Just the amount of growth in 2 years, right? From 3 years, actually, from then where it was, starting out on a Glowforge, kind of hobbyist, not knowing what you're doing very time-consuming projects like hand-painted name puzzles and all that fun stuff, to transitioning to getting a Mira, to getting an F1, to the Ultra, to pivoting the business to B2B, and then also pivoting the business into doing shows. Right. And using the tools that she had to elevate herself above the other people. But I think the biggest growth that I've seen in her is she's never lost who she is. The things that are most important to her, it's, yes, we're all a business. We all want to make money. We all want to do great. But taking care of people, taking care of her church, inspiring other entrepreneurs, starting a group with X2 on the go, and becoming that leader and thought leader within the community, as well as what she does in her actual community, is inspiring. So that's why I thought I'd have to jump on here and give her kudos.
Awesome. She was telling us about how she was going to the networking meetings and how a couple people had pointed out, the email address and adding her name to her business cards, and how she went home and did that right away. And I wish I had half that follow through because I have every intention to do so. And I either forget about it or I put it off or procrastinate for whatever reason because I think it's going to be harder than it actually is, or whatever. But I mean, it's impressive because most of the time, what was it? I saw I forget who shared it. It might have I think it was David shared it in his Creative Cut Supplies group. But we basically put off learning something new due to that first hour of learning or something like that. We procrastinate, we overthink basically how difficult it's going to be. And we do way more thought into the overthinking and procrastinating than just starting. And a lot of times once we actually just start, sometimes it's way easier than we think. Sometimes, it validates my fears and it actually is difficult. But a lot of times it's not nearly as hard as my brain says it is. And I could have just got that done, however many weeks, months, or even years ago, that we've put something off.
I remember that quote from David. It was something to the effect of, it takes us 20 hours to get really good at something, but it takes us years to get that first hour.
Yes. Yes, that.
So, yeah.
And it's you put off 20 hours for 2 years. Yeah.
Yep. And then you're in the same place damn, I still suck.
Right. So, I know, I definitely commented on that one. I was like, stop attacking me. Because it was dang, that is true, Yeah, and I mean, we're still, obviously there has actually been things that's gotten in the way, but we've put off our second podcast for 2 or 3 years. We wanted to start that one about a year into this one. We
just wrapped up RBD with LEDs with RBD. So
yeah.
Your LED course.
Yeah, that finally came out. Well, it's not done yet, though. That's the hard part.
From Dallas.
Yes.
In Dallas. So 3 years ago.
It was the first conference.
Sacramento. Yeah. 4 years ago. I forget about that one. That one doesn't count because I wasn't there.
Yeah, because you weren't there. You were there, but not there. You were in the hotel room under quarantine.
Under quarantine. So yeah, I just wanted to jump in. I'm done. This is not about me. I just want to come in and say hi to Cheyenne, congratulate her on it, and say hello to you guys. You guys continue your talk. All you Patreon members, good job. If you have friends, make them pay.
Right?
It's not being fucking cheap.
All
right.
That's going to be our ad.
There you go. That's the new ad.
I'm going to clip that out for our ad.
Join Patreon, you loser. All right.
Thanks, Will.
All right, guys. Good job. Cheyenne, congratulations again. Talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
How the hell do I get out of this
You
place?
push the leave studio button.
Leave studio button.
Oh, I
We've
don't
done
have
this.
full screen
Or you
here.
can stay there. Whatever.
It's the what is it, the projector that he has on.
Oh,
probably
yeah.
couldn't see it.
Nice little pop in from
The
your
prompter.
friend.
Yeah, that was a good surprise.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to text him. He told us. We knew he was coming in. That's why I had you go full screen, so you couldn't see when he came in.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
that's
little
why.
cheater.
I never stay. I never.
I
tell
was
that to people.
wondering why
Yeah.
you asked her
Nope.
that.
That's so that she didn't see him pop up in the little
Oh.
bubble. But I had to text him.
That's funny.
I'm like, well, we're talking. It's been like he knows time wise.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you come in or what?
Oh, yeah. I saw
Yeah.
one of the texts I missed was 3 minutes, I think
Oh,
he
okay.
said. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything else that you want to, any other share, like tips and stuff that you have learned maybe recently that you wanted to share that we might have forgot about?
I think just go for it. Like a lot of times we hold ourselves back because we don't have it all together, or like, I had the Gmail account. Well, the Gmail account like got me so much business already.
Right.
Like, so just don't be afraid to just go for it. Most of the greatest success stories that I have are when I was scared and I just went for it. Anyway.
Right. So
So,
true. Yeah.
that
And
would
what
be
we talked about recently, like on our 200th episode with Will, was it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, yeah,
Right.
yes, having that email address, it can help, but those are little tweaks that you can make once you've kind of, proven that this is something that you want to do. Because the other thing that you can do is, the analysis paralysis, where you feel like you have to do all of those things and they all have to be
Right.
perfect before you launch it. And that's not true, because sometimes when you launch it, you realize, oh, I don't want to do nursery signs. So if everything you did and branded was towards like kid stuff, and then you realize that's not what you want to do, it's harder to shift, and make those adjustments. You can make those improvements at any point.
Well, you're going to.
Yeah.
You're with anything. You're going
Right.
to constantly change and evolve. So it's
For
also
sure.
not getting, because also you could get married to, let's just say, kid signs.
Right.
And then that trend goes away. You're trying to keep pushing, but like, well, the trend's gone. Everyone did it before. Now we're on to whatever, name banks.
Right.
Like that's the new trend.
Yeah.
So you can't really, you're going to evolve just because, you're going to evolve if you want to stay current and profitable,
Right.
just because trends come and go and things. So you're always going to be changing.
Yeah. Oh, and the question I forgot to ask in the first portion, right? I didn't ask it.
Yeah, no.
So the question I try to ask every episode, what is one tool, mindset, or skill that's kind of helped your business grow, you think, the most?
I would say just the mindset of like a CEO. Like, would you hire yourself? And just shifting that mindset of like, oh, I have to get this done. No, I get to do this. Like, I get to run a small business, but holding myself accountable as to like, would I hire myself? Like,
Yeah.
am I sleeping in or am I getting up? So just
Right.
kind of viewing myself more as that CEO versus just a crafter.
Yeah, that's huge. I was talking to Cindy yesterday, trying to get a little pep talk. It didn't help that I didn't feel well. It's really easy not to be motivated when, you don't feel well. But she was, the saying that I've heard a lot lately, you're not unmotivated, you lack discipline.
Yeah.
And so, and that I definitely do. I didn't realize, I highly underestimated the amount of self-discipline I was going to have when employing myself.
Right.
That's one of the, I quote, luxuries you have when working for someone else. They help you have that discipline, because if you don't have it, you're going to be fired.
Right.
And I mean, the same is true for your own business. If you don't have it, you're going to end up having to fire yourself, because you have to get money from somewhere, and it means you may have to go.
Yeah.
Right. You may have to close doors if you don't have the discipline, to keep at it. So that was another good one that my friend Cindy laid on me yesterday. Reminded me. I've heard it before, but it was one that I needed to hear yesterday, and it was a little bit. It was easier to kind of push through, and within reason. I wasn't like pushing it too far or anything. I was doing the things that like I felt comfortable doing on the computer. When I really got tired, I took a break and stuff. But there's still things that I could have done, that I did do yesterday that, take discipline, because the other thing is like, there's no sick days, you don't want to push it too far, right. But me being sick, I still have things that I need to get done. And so when you're feeling a little bit better, you gotta push through and find,
it's also, the periodically reassessing yourself.
Yes.
Because like this year has started off really slow for Riley Black Media. So I'm like, man,
right.
what is there? There's got to be something that I should be doing that
right.
I'm not doing.
Reassessing
what I can do more of, and it took
self-reflection.
me back. It took me back to the course that I took, the marketing course that I took, and it's like one of the biggest things is the cold outreach, like
right.
And then I've been listening to a few different like motivational and also business strategy YouTube and some ebooks and stuff, and everything is the same thing, and the mentor that I talked to is you just have to continuously outreach.
What is it, like 100 no's, if you get 2 yeses from 100 no's, those kind of things.
And it's even more, it's like thousands of no's,
right?
But you get that yes, and that yes can turn into more. So it's just doing more of that. Like,
because if you think about with like your networking, the ones where you've gotten like one person almost every time, but how many people showed up? So if you look at all those other people's negatively as a no, if there's 30 people there and 29 weren't interested, but one was, the one that was is really all that matters, and that can turn into so many more too.
And also that one keeps you going. The fact that you've gotten at least one every time, it keeps you going because you only need that one.
Yeah. And I love how you mentioned that, like, you've been watching YouTube videos and you have a mentor. I mean, that's a huge part of running a small business too, is like, you've got to fuel yourself. You've got to start each day, with gratitude and like listening to personal development, things like that, or else, the negativity is just going to bring you down.
And,
always growing.
Because our bills don't. Oh, sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
I changed up my vision board on my phone too.
Oh,
just because it just became background.
Yeah,
it just became more of the it's the
true.
Background.
You didn't really notice it anymore.
There's nothing. It's just it's just my screen.
What were you gonna say? Our bills? I was what?
Gonna say, bills don't care if we feel good or we don't.
Yeah,
it's true.
They're still gonna show up for us.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no snooze on bills.
Right, I wish. One of our listeners, actually, did I tell you that they asked for a book list?
Oh, no.
So, and I thought it was a really good idea because a lot of people have mentioned like books and audiobooks and stuff that they've like, or people that they follow. So it was another thing that I was going to try and start asking. Is there any like people or books that you really liked that have kind of helped you with your business journey?
Yeah, I really love John Maxwell. He is a Christian author, but he uses a lot of like personal development along with scripture and stuff like that. So he is a really good author. I would highly recommend reading his books.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, that's a good way to end it. Yeah. Remind everybody again, the group one more time and where they can follow you.
Yes. So X Tool on the Go on Facebook. And then, of course, my actual sales of laser engraving stuff is Paisley Co Design. So.
Cool.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thanks for spending about an hour and a half with us talking. Don't go anywhere. We're going to do a little post-show wrap-up. But the life update's coming up next. And we're back.
Hey.
We're literally back.
So
we just flew in from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, by the time you listen to this, we'll be on our way back home from Puerto Rico. We had to sneak in 2 podcasts this week, which was thankfully we pulled it off, but we ended up having to reschedule our giveaway.
Only because you weren't feeling well.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the podcast.
No, it didn't. But just, the plague. I did okay on Monday, recorded the podcast like we normally do on Mondays, and then Monday night and Tuesday morning were rough, and I just didn't want to. I would have, wouldn't have had the energy I wanted to have for such a big giveaway. So we rescheduled that for the end of March. The giveaway is closed, but the names and stuff will be chosen at the end of March. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Now it's
Puerto Rico was fun. It was great. It was relaxing.
Yeah,
I hope.
We hope. It was super amazing.
I'm sure the kids got out of hand a few times.
Of course. Super stressful traveling there and back. No, the travel went smoothly. Things are going to go. I'm trying to speak this stuff into existence. Okay.
Okay.
What did you say the other day when I wasn't feeling well? You're like, I said, I hope tomorrow's a good day. And you're like, put in an order.
Yeah,
order. Okay, yes. So we're putting in an order for a smooth airport and flights and all of the above. But if not, we'll pivot like we always do.
We have to. We'll be staying in an RV.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. It looks really cool. Yeah. I think the kids will enjoy it. Jackson is really excited about going. We're going to Puerto Rico. And then what was it the other day? Jason's Puerto Rico, he called it.
Monster Jason's Puerto Rico.
Like there's a different Puerto Rico than the one that Jason stays in.
Right.
But yeah, now it comes down to the last minute tie-ups for everything, jam packing, all the work we can get in before we go.
Like
and
finishing this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. He has to turn this around quickly and schedule it for next week so that it doesn't even look like we were gone.
Right. I'm on time. I finished.
But
202
yeah, the other one's done.
Yeah, and scheduled.
Cool.
So
awesome.
I'm right on track, so this one should be fine.
Cool.
With that, I think, right?
Yeah.
Don't forget to join our Facebook group, as I said many times.
Join Patreon if you aren't already for all of the extended interviews. This one had a special guest.
Popped it in.
What did you just say?
Popped in.
Oh, popped it in. It sounded like in my head. But disclaimer, I've said it a few times, but I've gotten the official email from Patreon. If you are an Apple iPhone user, sign up on the web because if you sign up through iOS, it will charge you a 30% fee. And so our lowest tier is $6 and it'll charge you, I think, $8 or $9. Yeah. And that extra money doesn't go to us. It goes straight to Apple. So like, and that's with anyone on Patreon and that's with any app store. I just posted about it in our Facebook group and it happened to me.
They said it was $6 more. Why am I getting charged $8? Apple.
Yeah, so it happened to me. I knew about it because Patreon has been warning us for months and months. And it happened to me with ChatGPT. I signed up for ChatGPT, $19 a month. I didn't see any warnings, notifications, anything. If there was one, I completely missed it. And then I get a notification, that my payment went through for Apple services and it was like $26. Yeah. And that's because of the extra 30%. So now I have to cancel through Apple and sign up on the web and log in that way.
I mean, luckily there's another option because they're becoming a lot like Ticketmaster, where they charge you all these fees.
Right. And that's the only way that you can purchase them.
Ticketmaster, I mean, unless you go through the venue itself. But anyway,
sometimes,
that's the only way you can do it. At least here where you go online and sign up that way.
Yeah.
And then you can still use it on your device.
Yes. You just log in through the device. Yeah.
You can still use it on your phone or your, I'm pretty sure that the iPads are the same way.
Yeah.
Just use the same.
Yeah. So just the initial sign up, if you're actually going to become a paid member, just do it on.
I mean, listen, you're going to be on your computer anyway, on your Shopify and stuff. And
right.
And
it's just
an extra step.
Another soapbox, thing for us because 80% of our audio listeners are iPhone.
Apple. Yeah.
So, Apple Podcasts. So it's hard that, we have to have people go around this extra loop so they aren't charged more money to support their friends.
Yeah. But with that, it's been another great episode of the Write It Back Project. Crystal and John.
Bye.
Maybe we're all done. The Write It Back Project. Bye.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. Nino, I'm recording.